A man that bends over backwards and says yes to everything, that is not real love. In fact, it's not even what seems like an unselfish act. It is selfish. They are afraid and they are protecting themselves through the mask of a nice guy, trying to make sure their partner is happy. And their definition of happy is just not mad.
Yeah.
But in that process, they sacrifice their own masculinity. They sacrifice their purpose.
Meeting a timid man can feel refreshing if you've dated a few fuckboys who
Sure.
are really, come out of the gate hot and they love bomb you right away, and then they break your heart in some way. Welcome back to the Chase and Mimi show underneath the Medicine podcast. This is Mimi, and I'm sitting next to the love of my life, Chase. Hello.
What is going on, everybody? We're back.
We are back. And you want to do a little life update for our listeners here?
Sure. Tell me how your pregnancy is going.
Yeah.
As if I don't know, because I spend 24 hours a day with you.
I would love to tell you how my pregnancy is going, and then we'll switch it to you.
Great.
Pregnancy is going good. I am 17 and a half weeks. By the time this comes out, I will be in my week 18. I feel great. I'm completely asymptomatic. Belly's growing, which is a good thing. And haven't felt any baby movement kicks yet. Usually they say that's between 18 and 24 weeks at some point. So I am impatiently waiting. Also, fun fact, in the last week, you know this, but in the last week, I have had 3 dreams, very realistic dreams, where I'm like interacting with our baby in my belly, and like feeling him kick and like, push, and like seeing his feet like push against. And I think my psyche is just like really ready to have that. It's just something that I've been looking forward to since the very beginning. Like that first movement of like, oh my gosh,
Right.
You're in there. Because other than my belly growing, it's like I don't feel any different. You know what I mean? And so when you feel that first like kick, that first movement, it like begins this different type of connection with the little being that's inside of you.
Yeah, it's like the first trimester, you have some of the nausea and the fatigue, and it's like very, very tangible difference between when you weren't pregnant, right? But those kind of wear off to a certain degree as you roll into the second trimester, and you just want some little feedback. Like, hey, what's going on in there, dude?
Yeah.
Are you moving around? You grooving? Like, give me a little high five or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you think about how miniature the little limbs are.
Yeah.
Because when I press on it, it's like a hard, it's not like a gooey belly.
Yeah.
It's very much like a hard substance. And so I'm even envisioning like, even if dude guy has 1/100th the strength of my little pinky finger, it would be hard to like, even at this point, 17, 18 weeks in, for him to press through the abs, if you will.
Right. Yeah. So we're being patient, but I'm very excited for that movement to be felt for the first time. And if you're interested in my pregnancy, if you're a woman and you're thinking about becoming pregnant, or you are, I just did a solo episode literally last week on everything that I'm doing in my pregnancy to support my body and mind. Everything from like questions that I asked my provider, all the way to how I'm, nurturing my inner world, to nutrition, supplements, movement, learning, books, podcasts, all of that stuff. I put it in a 2-hour solo episode, but it's audio only. So you have to listen on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts. We didn't do a YouTube video. So check that out. I think it's episode 266. I want to hear from you. How was your men's trip?
Oh, it was amazing. I think I mentioned this on the podcast, a few weeks ago. I was headed off to a week-long immersion at Mount Shasta, California, which is a famous mystical location, not unlike Sedona. It's a land of vortexes, and it's also a land of like magical healing waters. There's a famous spring there that people go to from all over the world to get some of the spring water. And all that to say, there's a lot of like good energy, good vibes at the space. And so the group that I participated in for a year, the Abundance Archetype, through our friend Jason Picard, he put this together, and he's been on the show 3 or 4 times. We've talked about his community, his course called the Abundance Archetype that I took for about a year. And there was a handful of us that decided to go into a full-blown immersion, predominantly male. And so it was really great just to be around a bunch of men who are driven in their careers, in their roles as fathers and husbands, but also have a desire to connect with, mindfulness, with a purpose that's beyond the physical and the material, and really connect with God, however you define that, spiritual, if you will. And so participating in that week for me was a blast. And there was a host of different things we did, including a Native American sweat lodge, which was just super powerful.
Intense,
but powerful. Drinking and jumping into the waters of Mount Shasta, which are, beautiful at, 30 some degrees, which is quite chilly. But then just a lot of time in sacred connection to a higher power and to our purpose and to our souls. And it really was a beautiful refresh, reset, like a factory reset on my connection to God. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to get fatigued in 2024, especially if you're interested at all in mindfulness, in spirituality, hell, even like self-development, because the algorithms on your social media, on the internet, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, they just pump you with the most inauthentic spiritual, quote unquote, leaders, influencers, coaches, that being a podcaster and being in this space, I am just kind of fatigued by. And so I've built up a pretty healthy, maybe not healthy, but hefty dose of cynicism as it pertains to connecting with God. And at times I even like find myself going through a particular cadence of connecting with a higher power, and it feels like something that someone was talking about on Instagram, and I just want to throw it out the window because it feels so inauthentic. And this trip for me, having seen, there wasn't a camera in sight, right? Oh, there was a cameraman for the trip, but nobody was like,
nobody had their phone out doing selfies,
right? Nobody was meditating in front of their Instagram audience.
Yeah.
We weren't, taking sacred ceremonial space to create content.
Yeah,
we were doing it to find deeper compartments within ourselves, to connect to, who we want to show up as in this materialistic world, while also having an understanding and appreciation for something more metaphysical, something larger, call it God if you want. And I was just really, really refreshed by witnessing the egoless individuals there. We had one night where a band came in and we just like had ecstatic dance, a bunch of dudes just dancing around, worshiping a higher power to some degree. Sounds very culty.
Could just be worshiping the music.
We're just in it, just in our bodies and just flowing. And like, it was so beautiful and refreshing. And I can't emphasize enough. We talk about all the time on this show as we get questions from men or questions from wives about how their men can start, quote unquote, doing the work. And Jesus, for men, a lot of times it's just like being around other men because we sharpen each other.
Yeah.
And we validate each other when we put our egos down and when we just decide to surrender to life. And having other men that do that is really just this collective vibration that I feel a lot closer to now coming back from the trip, that supports kind of keeping that feeling of cynicism at bay. And so, yeah, it was really, really amazing. I will absolutely jump on an opportunity to do that again.
Yeah.
And if anybody's interested in Jason's community, it's so powerful. Hit me up. I would love to connect you with him. He does like one-on-ones for free before you even participate in the course or the community. And so I can't, I don't have enough good things to say about it, really.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. And I'm so glad you did this. One, because it's just, I think it's important, as we talk about on the show, we've said it many times, I think it's important for people for partners to have separate interests, not only just separate interests, but separate experiences, where you and I could do everything together.
Yeah.
We do a lot of, we do together. No, we don't do that together. But what I mean is like, we love being around each other so much. It's easy to get in our bubble where we don't really branch out. And I think it's very important, like you said, for men, probably all men, but certainly any type of man that's wanting to grow and evolve in any type of way. The relationship that you have with men is different than the relationship you have with your female partner.
Yeah.
And so like how you and I talk and interact together is going to be very different than you sitting around in a men's circle, like, like you said, sharpening each other. And I think it's just so, so valuable. And, maybe someone like you doesn't need to be in a men's group every week, but maybe once a year or something, like do some, like I'm totally going to encourage you if that's something that you want to do, encourage just those experiences, those types of experiences, just like you would if I wanted to go to like a women's retreat or women's experience. I think there's just, there's something different about being with your own gender and like being in a safe group where you can just like completely let go.
Yeah.
And it changes the dynamic. I think when it's like super mixed.
And the lesson for me is always don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because every lane of life, every category of life, religion, sports, career, bad actors will dilute the water, poisons the water. And a lot of times you just bail out because of one personality. Right.
And it doesn't even have to be like people who are nefarious and malicious.
No, you just may not vibe with somebody.
It can be people on Instagram or whoever who are just like not actually doing the work that they claim, or they're charging people way too much for the experiences or the whatever they're offering. It's just like, okay, dude, like you've been a health coach or you've been a spirituality teacher for like 6 months and you're charging. It doesn't have to be like, someone's evil or bad. It's just like those people are going to slip in where they're cutting corners. They're not being super genuine or authentic, or they can't really help you like they're claiming they can. And that's going to show up in every single lane of self-development. And I think it's great that you had that realization and just kind of the refreshing of your spiritual life.
Yeah, for sure. It just felt so real for a week, and that there's nothing quite like having a fucking palpable, real experience to motivate you in your, on your path.
And it's a good experience when you're protein deprived and you come away still feeling like it was a good experience.
I barely slept. I had a particular diet for a couple of weeks leading up to it that didn't include meat, and I came back like
depleted,
whipped, physically whipped.
But it was still great.
It was great. All right. Well, let's jump into the show.
Yeah.
The Chase and Mimi structure, as always, is we call this like a meal. We've got a meal of segments for you, everybody. Mm-hmm. The first few segments are the appetizers, and we break down something that might be funny, might be informative, might be helpful in the lanes of, almost said religion, definitely not religion, relationships.
Well, yeah, I mean,
maybe helpful in religion.
Maybe.
Mindfulness, health and wellness. Before we get to the entree of the episode, which is 3 relationship questions that come from you all in our community, our listeners, our viewers, our Medicine Drop newsletter subscribers.
We really encourage any time you have a relationship question to let us know. You can either drop it in the YouTube comments, or if it's more private, you can always email us at the Medicine Podcast. Medicine without an E on the end, the Medicine Podcast at gmail.com. You can send any and all questions there. We can always keep them anonymous. But we really like connecting with our listeners in this way, providing some level of unbiased, as much as possible, support, guidance, advice, and, little disclaimer that like we're simply pulling from our own experiences together in relationship, and also, our experiences working with counselors, teachers in the relationship space over the last 6-ish years. So we're not professionals. We're just sharing from our hearts. And if you need help from a professional, we have those recommendations too.
Yeah, we're like a link in the chain.
Yeah.
So that's the structure. We wrap the show up with a crazy story as usual. And if you guys are loving this, please give us a subscribe on YouTube. That is very, very helpful. Apple, Spotify for audio listeners, you can give us a subscription on those platforms as well. As a review would be wildly helpful. We don't encourage our audience probably enough or as much as we should to jump in and engage, but it's really, really helpful for the show.
Reviews really help.
Helps us. This show is expensive to produce and it's supportive when we get
Newsflash, it costs money.
Yeah, it does. And so, especially on YouTube, if you subscribe, if you like, if you comment, that really, really helps the, algorithms that we're all subject to get this out there and help us support our creativity. So much gratitude and appreciation. And without further ado, we'll get into the first segment. We call this one Shit I've Been On Lately, Dog, where we share what we're currently obsessed with.
I can't not laugh every time you do that. Oh, man, I love it. All right. You want me to go first?
Take it away.
Take it away now. Okay. So the shit I've been on lately is my better than Starbucks, like way better than Starbucks, cinnamon dolce latte. Let me explain. So I make my coffee at home because I do a better job than any coffee shop that I've ever been to. Starbucks has this decadent cinnamon dolce latte. And if you've ever had it, it's like drinking candy because it quite literally is candy. There's 40 grams of sugar, 340 calories. It's not good for you, but the taste is amazing. So I'm a lover of seeing a recipe and then reformulating it, like making a lot of substitutions to make it healthier and or tastier, to meet our, very high standard of what we put into our body. So this cinnamon dolce latte at home, you can make very easily with just a few ingredients. So what I start with is a packet of King coffee. And I'll put in the show notes or the description box how you can get King coffee. But basically, this is a mixture of organic mold-free coffee with the reishi spores, which is really, really potent. Tons of benefits. Just look up the benefits of reishi. It is a mile long. So I've been drinking this coffee for 6 years now. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made for my health. And but if you don't have King coffee or don't want to drink King coffee, you can just substitute this with 8 ounces of your favorite black coffee or whatever. So I start with a packet of King coffee, and then I do about 1/2 to 3/4 scoop of our butter powder. This is different than using a slab of butter. It blends much better. If you've ever used like butter in your coffee, it kind of like just gathers at the top. It doesn't really
like that.
You kind of like that, I know.
I like the butter on my mustache.
Okay, well, the butter powder tastes like butter. It is butter, but it's in powder form. So you're able to just blend it better, with a little immersion blender. So check it out. We just get it on Amazon. Just look up grass-fed butter powder. So we got the King coffee. We got the 1/2 scoop or so of butter powder. And then we have about a scoop of MushyLove Latte, which is our lovely mushroom elixir product that we formulated years ago. It tastes like a liquid cinnamon roll, and this is where the cinnamon dolce comes in. So scoop of MushyLove that's been reformulated in the last month or so. We got we got a restock of MushyLove, and it's even better than the first version. Same overall flavor, but smoother, slightly sweeter, no aftertaste. It is the tits.
Benefits are all the same, but specifically we honed in on the coconut milk powder and the cinnamon.
Yeah.
There's a wide variety of cinnamons that are out there, and we tried to look for one that had the best taste as well as the benefits of cinnamon. And we did. We found a particular type of cinnamon that really adds to lighter, more latte experience. And then we did the same with the coconut milk powder.
Yeah.
It's like freshness of coconuts, right? And like, believe it or not, a lot of that still rolls into these powders and extracts and things that we all consume as supplement consumers. And so if you find a really, really high quality source for coconuts, a lot of times the coconut milk powder is like freaking dialed in. So we have a really, really good source rolling into this product. People are loving it.
Yeah. I am so happy with the feedback that we've gotten from people. Okay, so we got our scoop of MushyLove in there, and then I add hot water, about 8 to 10 ounces for me. Do my little, electric blender, and then I add, about a tablespoon or so of vanilla coffee creamer, whatever vanilla creamer you like. This gives it a little bit more sweetness. The vanilla flavor mixing with the cinnamon and the butter is just so rich, so delicious. I could drink this all day long. I only allow myself one a day because I'm pregnant, but I literally I wake up excited to drink this thing. So just to recap, we got the King Coffee, scoop of butter powder, or you can use butter, scoop of MushyLove, blend that with hot water, and then add your vanilla, a little bit of vanilla coffee creamer. Tell me it's not the best latte experience you've ever had at home, or maybe anywhere. But it is absolutely delicious. You've tried it.
I've tried it. It's amazing. If you make this at home, snap a photo, snap a video, put it up on Instagram, tag us. Yeah. And we'll give you some love.
Yeah. Tag me, Mimi_the_medicine. Who knows? Maybe we'll send you a free bag of MushyLove just to say thank you. Wink. Okay. What kind of shit you been on lately, babe?
Well, it's funny because the title of this playlist is spiritual shit. It's actually spiritual shiz because I didn't want to use a curse word. Yeah. But we've been 3 or 4 nights a week jamming to some spiritual music before we go to bed.
Yeah.
And this is not a new practice. We've done this, but we're doing it more intentionally now, more frequently now.
Yeah.
I'm just to the point at 34 years old, my brain goes right into bed with me and it doesn't stop. It just keeps thinking. And if I'm stimulating it through what I'm consuming through media before bed, even if I fall asleep, I'm waking up with a million thoughts.
Yeah.
And so having this little process for just calming myself, connecting to things that are not of this material world is really, really helpful for me when it comes to sleep. And it's become kind of I'm really finding in my spiritual life, I'm not just like a sit there and meditate dude because my brain goes off in a million directions. And so music is very supportive, or like dancing or something is really supportive of having a practice to connect with, the divine. And so we've been jamming 3 or 4 nights a week before we go to bed for like 30 minutes. We get
By jamming, you mean we lay on the couch, basically scissoring.
And we have a playlist of spiritually inclined songs that are just beautiful.
Oh my God.
Like
could make you cry. They're so good.
The feminine voice that comes through some of these songs just like completely melts me
I'm just
down.
like, oh my God, I'm so gay for this lady.
I'm a very audibly heterosexual.
Audibly?
Yeah. Is that right? Like through my ears?
Yeah. It was just funny the way you put it. No, I love that. Try it out. And we'll put actually a link to the playlist, or we'll figure out a way to put it in the description box or playlist, a link or whatever on Spotify.
Just hit me or Mimi up on Instagram. We'll just send you a link directly.
Yeah, or that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. It's been really helpful for sleep. It's helping me with my spiritual life, and then it's a great time for us to connect. Yeah. I mean, I had a full blown like psychedelic experience the other night.
Yeah, you were on another
Granted,
planet.
I was on a little bit of cannabis and I was very sleepy. Yeah. But I just got this.
And I was rubbing your head.
Yeah, like lightning bolt dimethyltryptamine experience where I just became one with my future child, and I was overwhelmed with love. I just started like bawling, which is, I'm not an overly sensitive person. I don't have like clairvoyancy of any kind, and or the clairs. I don't have any of the clairs going on. But this was powerful. Yeah. Really powerful. I do not exaggerate this kind of stuff. Most of the time I'm like, this shit ain't working on me, dog. Like, this is not fucking hitting me at all. But this one just came down like a freaking bolt of lightning.
Yeah, I could feel it from you in that experience. turned around. He had his head back and I was like rubbing his head. And then he just like, you turned around and just like hugged me. And like, I could tell that you were like you were in it. You were in a moment.
Yeah.
I wasn't about to be like, what's wrong? Are you okay? Or like, oh, are you like, I could just feel, I could feel the bubble of love that you were in. And I was
crazy.
I'm here for it.
I can't conjure those things. It just happened.
Right.
You know? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into our next appetizer, our next segment. We call this one the clip of the week, where we take a bite out of the content made by some of our favorite teachers, creators, and a lot of times even our friends. Today, we're honing in on Gabor Mate. I always loved his name. Many people pronounce it differently, but the dude is filled with wisdom. And I thought this one was extra relevant considering some of the things we've talked about, even of late on the Medicine Podcast.
Yeah. Let's go. I want to hear it.
Always marry somebody that's going to trigger for you every unhappiness that you ever had in your childhood. So when we find somebody to be in a relationship with, it happens on two levels. One level is, I find them attractive, they're humorous, they're fun to be with. Underneath it, there's a looking for the love that we never got in the first place. So, for example, why do so many women, specifically, who were abused in childhood, end up with abusive men? Which they do, repeatedly. And you think, what's wrong with them? Well, there's nothing wrong with them. What's wrong is, whose love did they most want when they were kids? So unconsciously, they'll be drawn towards men who've got that abusive potential. So relationships very much a matter of growing up together, if that can happen. But I guarantee you, when you marry somebody, you're going to find both your dreams and your worst nightmare.
That's profound, that we're all seeking, subconsciously, we're seeking our parents' dysfunction.
Yeah, because that's where we wanted the love.
Wow. Yeah, that hits.
It hits. I think people are probably aware, if you spent, even 2 minutes in relationship work, that you unconsciously manifest or are attracted to a partner where there's like a wound that you might be thinking you can heal, even on a subconscious level. And so he referenced why do women who with abusive fathers end up marrying an abusive husband, and that's kind of a standard category out there, but there's real depth in that pattern. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the abuser and the attraction of the abuser. It can be, for men, why are you attracted to someone who's going to be your mommy? Someone who's going to, wipe your ass and take care of all the little things in your life, because you are trying to still, in some way, shape, or form, heal or connect with mom in some way. And the reason I thought this was an interesting clip to talk about on the show a little bit is because we've had questions that I think this response from Gabor Mate applies to. Questions like, how do I know when to break up with someone or push through a challenge? Or even questions like, how do I know they're the one? And I think that this is an important thing to consider, because he kind of separates these two components of real deep relationship work, or relationship components. One is are they attractive? Do they make you laugh? You generally get along, have fun together. Compatibility. But then there's like, what do they trigger in you?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times where you move through the honeymoon phase, the novelty phase of a relationship, where things seem like they're grooving along pretty well. And you get to this impasse where they're actually triggering you somehow. I bet if you looked even further, it would be something pertaining to your childhood. You don't have to have the most brutal childhood ever.
Right, yeah. It can be small things.
To have your partner trigger something in you that pertains to an unresolved issue from growing up.
It can be one instance, one memory of one specific incident in your childhood. It doesn't even have to be like trauma or abuse. It could be like, I remember in 4th grade when I did this thing and everybody laughed in the class and I felt stupid. It can be like literally one incident.
Right.
That's being, like scratched a little bit.
Totally. And, using the disclaimer of if you're in an abusive relationship, by all means, get the hell out of there. You don't need to be like, I must work through this.
Yeah, right.
Because this is where the work is in this person beating me to death or whatever.
No.
But I do think that when that feeling comes up where you're like, oh my God, everything they're doing now, which used to, I was obsessed with this person for months or even for years. Now everything they do is repulsive to me. Like, sit in that for a while. Really spend some time meditating in that. Because there's a good chance it actually has something to do with an unhealed, unaddressed wound. That if you decide to end the relationship and move on to another, you are likely setting yourself up for the same moment, the same scenario. I've talked about this on the show before, but my dad put it to me one time so beautifully. Props to Randog, where he just said, I was telling him about you and I potentially getting back together and some of the concerns that I had, some of the concerns that he had. And he was just like, son, at the end of the day, you're going to have to figure out who you want to work through your shit with. And that's, an important question in relationships. Because you're never going to avoid the shit. You're never going to avoid your shit that you need to work through. The question is, who do you trust? Who can hold the space for you to actually massage that knot in your relationship quad out, right?
And who is volunteering to work through the shit with you?
Yeah.
It's one thing if the person is like, no, not me. But, in our instance, in our situation, I was like, I'm here. I want to do this with you. I want to figure this out. I want to heal together. And so that's a huge, thing to think about too. But I think, this is the lesson here from this video is just having awareness.
Yes.
Just having awareness that we all have this tendency. If you're a human, again, you don't have to have like an abusive or very traumatic childhood. It could be just a very small thing that you're unaware of and your partner is reigniting in you. And I think the mistake, like you so beautifully put, I think the mistake that a lot of people make is like they get that uncomfortable situation and they think that it's just like, well, this just isn't my person. They're triggering me in this way. And I don't want to ask them to change. And this is who I am. So like, and then they go on to recreate that pattern, whatever it is. And, maybe this isn't your person, but it's in your best interest to at least ask yourself what disappointment or trauma or whatever trauma is definitely like an overused word, I think, right now. But like, what even disappointment from childhood? What lack of love did I feel in my childhood that this person is in this moment inviting me to heal or inviting me to look at least?
Right.
And if you ask that and you get to the realization that this still isn't my person, great, whatever. But at least you're having the awareness. At least you are, conscious to this pattern that could very easily go, unconscious.
Classic example from a dude's perspective is you have a mom who takes care of a lot of things for you. And you even witnessed like your mom has never been liberated into her own individuality because she's so much a mom and taking care of every little thing. So you go out into the world and you say, I love my mom, but I'm really not going to marry my mom because my mom, is like at home mom only. There's no like individuation and this liberation from the house. And they go out and they marry somebody and 2 or 3 years down the road, they wonder why the sexual chemistry is off. They're like, why does she mother me? But if they maybe sat in it for a while, they potentially could have subconsciously groomed their partner into being a mother for them because that is their relationship to femininity.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be someone who stays at home with the kids. It can be someone in, could be at a C-level corporation, leadership seat or something. And she's used to being in control and she's attracted a man that wants to be controlled or wants to be, kind of like mommied a little bit.
John Wineland talked about this, some of the first podcast interviews I ever heard him talk about, where he's like, we will all subconsciously groom our partners to be the parent of the opposite sex so that we can potentially heal that wound or just out of the sheer fact that that's familiarity to us. And so again, like you said, this is a segment about awareness, because I think having this in your tool belt as you come across relationship challenge and triggers is, especially if it's the both of you that have that in your tool belt, that is freaking gold.
All right. Next segment that is one of our favorites. Certainly like the most fun, maybe the most shallow.
Come
but
on.
We get lots of laughs, lots of love from this one.
I got the jollies already.
This is a segment we call The Times Are Tough, but the Memes Are Easy. Especially after an election week.
Yeah. Well,
the memes are real easy.
Tension.
I don't even know if I have any
political
I don't
ones,
have any political ones either. Honestly, I'm pretty glad that all of that is over, at least the campaign ads and things like that. I'm very happy to not be receiving those texts and calls from random people. So here we are. Let's jump in.
Let's do it.
You want me to start?
Go for it.
People just don't moon each other anymore the way they used to.
Yeah, that's a little sketchy to do in 2024. But like, I mean, I remember getting mooned many a time in my youth.
Yeah.
Me. Sorry, Daddy, I've been bad. Priest. For the last time, the line is, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
Sorry, Daddy. Oh, man. I told my Lyft driver I was on mushrooms, and he said, like pizza mushrooms? I thought about it for 5 seconds, and I was like, yeah. Then he confided he sometimes eats a whole can of black olives.
That's awesome.
Like, you just realize you're like, yes, like pizza. I'm on pizza mushrooms.
Right. God bless that Uber driver. No one ever tells you how often you'll whisper righty-tighty, lefty-loosey to yourself as an adult, and they really should.
Oh, yeah, it's so true. It's very true. Also, like, what a great universal law.
Yeah, I think it's actually a divine channel for that someone
totally
accessed at some point throughout history.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I grew up working construction, and I work with guys who'd been doing this for decades, and they were still using righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. They still get thrown off.
What are you going to do?
You use the saying.
I'm in my 30s. Of course I'm burnt out because I grew up being told hard work pays off. So I made working hard my entire personality. But it turns out it actually doesn't pay off. It just creates more work and sets an unrealistic achievement standard that's impossible to keep up with.
Throw that one in the category of student loans, the best investment you'll ever make.
Yeah, totally. God.
The older I get, the more I understand why roosters start their day off screaming.
Can you imagine if humans did that?
It might help.
It might shock your partner. Or we just do it together. We should try it.
We'll report back.
It's kind of chilly outside this morning. I don't want to overreact, but Merry Christmas. Says everyone who starts decorating for Christmas the day after Halloween.
Yeah, my brother. All right. Condom sex and turkey bacon is the same. I mean, I love turkey bacon too, and I don't actually believe this one, but I thought it was funny.
It is funny. Men will make fun of women who like astrology while managing a fake football team.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. The beauty industry. For men, this can be used as a shampoo, body wash, face wash, lotion, mouthwash, toothpaste, engine degreaser, spackle, or sunscreen. Spackle. For women, we've specifically formulated this moisturizer for your left eyebrow. I thought you'd appreciate that.
Oh my God, it's so true.
The beauty industry is a fucking scam.
The man
for
wants,
women.
just give me one product for my entire existence. And women are like, no, I have this very specific problem.
There's a product for every 1 by 1 square inch of a female body. Like,
I think
it's unreal.
I think when we moved from San Diego to Sedona, I think my bathroom boxes were like just as much as my clothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, to be fair, we get a lot of products for free to try or whatever.
To be fair, you buy a lot of product and don't use it.
That's beside the point. Sometimes I'm like, well, I might. All right, moving on. You know how when you're a fast walker and the guy ahead of you is fast too, but only 90% as fast as you? So you must pass him. But to pass him, you have to walk comically faster than him. and your normal speed, or else you'll be in his personal space too long as you pass. That's annoying.
I hate that. I've almost torn my hip flexor trying to like speed walk. And then the worst is you meet again at like a traffic stop.
Yeah.
And you don't have a walk sign and you just wasted all that effort.
Right. And then you have to silently decide between the two of you, like, I'm going to go faster.
Out of the gate here.
We usually usually like, let's get ahead of these people.
It's good etiquette to know that if you're the 90%, just to slow down.
Yeah.
You know, let the difference naturally occur.
Save the guy's hip flexor. All right. I have a couple more.
So do I.
Okay. Go ahead.
Vitamin water is hilarious. They really were like, this liquid sugar is actually so good for you. And college me was like, perfect. Thank you. Pass me the hot pink one. And I feel a cold coming on.
They weren't even that good. It was like
vitamin, fill in the blank.
It was like a
Gatorade,
fruit
whatever.
farted in water.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like someone spit after eating a strawberry into water.
Yeah. Mm. I'm starting to think that thriving in your mid-30s is almost exclusively about how well and how often you can manage tummy issues.
Ugh, painfully true.
It's so true.
Doctor, hi, my name is Juan, and I'll be delivering your baby today. Me, Obi-Wan, you're our only hope. Wife, leave the father's name off the birth certificate. I thought that was fitting.
Yeah, that's funny.
I got one more.
Okay, I have two more. When I'm having a bad day, I just remind myself that the hottest guy in the world loves me.
Oh, that's nice. That's not funny, everybody. All right, my last one. The inventor of envelopes was such a freak. What do you mean I have to lick it?
I hate licking envelopes.
I know, I did it today.
All right, last one. Me. I'm a 90s kid. No, you're a 34-year-old man.
Yeah. Damn.
That's the picture. It's what's his name?
Anakin.
We got a Star Wars on Star Wars.
Wow, freaky stuff.
Very freaky. Anakin, he's crying on the balcony like a little bitch. We don't like Anakin in this household.
No, he was just such a wuss. All right, thanks for the beautiful memes, my love.
Thank you.
We will bring this back to a space of all seriousness, and beautiful intention.
No laughing,
because
no jokes.
We've got our 3 relationship questions.
This is the entree of the episode, everybody. All right. Thank you. All right, you want to kick us off?
All right, first question. Do you believe that the one exists? When I listen to your love story, I can't help but think y'all are meant for each other, which makes me think I might have someone out there too, just like that. There's a difference between the one and the best one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were talking about this as we were kind of preparing for this episode, because I feel like you are the one for me. But if you just think about it, like logistically, if one person in the world gets their one wrong and stays with them for life, then everyone else is off, because you have someone else's one and they'll have someone else's one. Right. It doesn't work. So like, no, I don't believe that there's the one for every person. But I do believe that there is, like in our case, the best one. You're the best one for me. I literally feel like you are me. You're an extension of me in a different body. And that's probably what it feels like for most people who also feel like I'm with the best person for me. Now, if you're not happy in your relationship, it's not going to feel like that. But having, been together, married, and gone through some hardship together, and then obviously separated, divorced, dated other people, and then come back together, like I am 150% positive that there is no one better in the world for me. So I think that there is a best one, but I don't think there's a one. And I think as you grow as a person, the more you can really truly understand yourself and self-reflect honestly and get to know yourself in the way of, what are my values? What are my core values? What are my non-negotiables? How do I want to feel in a relationship? I think, and also like, going back to Gabor Mate, like, what are my traumas?
Yeah.
Little T traumas, big T traumas. What are my disappointments? Where was I feeling a lack of love in my childhood that I might try to fill in the gaps with a partner? Just being aware. And I think we can definitely go through our 20s and have a series of relationships where it's like, okay, that's definitely not the best one. Definitely not the best one. But each relationship you're learning about yourself, hopefully. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you're reflecting after every relationship and like, what went well? What could have gone better? What am I going to discontinue next time? What am I going to continue next time? So every relationship gives us an opportunity to learn about ourselves. And I think when you do that, I think that brings you closer to your best one. It's not even so much about the other person. It's about you understanding yourself. And as you do that more and more with more life experience, lucky for us, we got it right on the first try, had some trial and error there. But I think as you grow in yourself, it gets much easier and easier to find your best one.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I think that the one, as if, you'll see them walking down the street. Like, that's the one.
Yeah, totally.
I think is a total myth. You mentioned it. There's this nature and nurture combo that we don't necessarily know what's the difference between nature versus nurture for the first 20 some years of our life, but they are shaping us. They're impacting us. And when we get to that, like choosing a partner age, which for some people is 40, some people is 20, honestly. But somewhere within there, when you're in the partner matching era, it's like a pyramid. You've got a population of people on the bottom rung of the pyramid that are like, I could hang out with this person, I could date this person, probably have a good time, and that's about it. One step up, you've got like, we might date actually for a while. We might have a lot of things in common. We might actually experience love. But at the end of the day, maybe there's a first principle or first value that is a problem, or just a cultural drastic difference that supports maybe going in a different direction. And then there's like the upper echelon, the smallest population size of people that you could have long-term, call it marriage or just serious relationships with, experience deep levels of love. And I think of that very small population, there is a best. Mm-hmm. There's a best fit. Call it the capstone of the relationship pyramid.
The winner,
the best. Like you and I are the best for each other. But I do think that it's a combination of things, right? It's all this is a really nice dovetail off of the Gabor Mate video, because you've got all of the really, call them surface level, but that's not to discount them, but things like attractiveness, physically, chemistry, sense of humor, all of those initial, like, damn, I'm going to be with this person for a while because we're so goddamn compatible. And then there's the real deep work. Mm-hmm.
It's like the physiological and then the spiritual.
Right. There's the triggers that they bring up that you're both working through. There's I can parent a child with this person. I can move across the country with this person. That's such a huge one. I can, build a life with this person and work through all of the things that don't feel good, but you look back on and go, that was the most important thing in my life. Mm-hmm. And even if they're feeling icky or inconvenient in that moment, that person is the partner to take up the mantle with you and work through those challenges in life. And I think that is a very, very small subset, and that there is a best out of that population. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, we grew up in the same town, went to the same school, childhood sweethearts. It's kind of crazy to be like, oh, we just found the one right away. But we shaped ourselves in a way that when we got to the point of like committing to partnership, we were the best for each other. Yeah. And so I think the answer simply is kind of like, I think there is a best one. Give it some time, give it some patience, know yourself, and then you'll know your unique puzzle piece that is best supported by somebody else's unique puzzle piece. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well said. Hear, hear. All right. Moving into our next question. Hey, Chase and Mimi, after a few relationships and breakups in my 20s, I feel like I have a good sense of red flags to look out for. I even find myself on dates hyper-focusing on the red flag search instead of the green flags, the signs that this person could be a really good match for me. What do you guys consider to be green flags as opposed to red flags in a partner, and how can I focus on those? I actually don't think it's that hard to identify red flags in a potential partner. I think sometimes it's much more difficult to identify and to acknowledge the green flags. So I think the reason for this is because, especially as women, and maybe this is true for men too, you can speak to this if you want, but especially for women, we are like trained by society and media and even our friends to like point out all the imperfections and to make sure that we know where the sources of danger, so to speak, are around us. So it's like partly in our DNA, partly from society. So I think that identifying the red flags is not that hard for most women. And I think the green flags can be more difficult because it really forces us to self-reflect on what's actually important to us. Not always the superficiality of, is he the exact height that I want? Does he have the job that I want? Like those types of things. It actually forces us to go deeper into ourselves and be more present with the partner that's in front of us. So when we're talking about green flags, we could probably make a whole episode about this, honestly. But I'm gonna just share like 4 that came to my mind that I think are really important to me, but I tried to think of what could be universally helpful to anyone that's listening and wondering about this. So I think, in no particular order, but this one's high up there for me, a similar sense of humor.
Oh yeah.
This sounds trivial. I realize that, but it's really, really not, because life is hard. Laughter is medicinal, and it also invites laughing together and making jokes together and having a similar sense of humor invites more intimacy.
Bro, it's like it's as important as orgasming.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Like
laughter is the cousin of
make me laugh, make me orgasm.
Yeah.
Let's orgasm together. Let's laugh together.
Yeah,
Dude,
totally.
It's so spot on.
Laughter and humor, it invites intimacy and closeness, flirting, even sexual chemistry. Like there's times where we're laughing and joking and it like literally creates this spark between us where we're physically close, we're smiling, we're in a good mood, and then we're having sex. So like it's real. And I think you understand it if you've ever been on a date or been around someone where your senses of humor are clearly like way different, or this person is 0% funny. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, boy, bye. If you are 0% funny, you could be the hottest person on the planet, which you are. Wow. Well, I had to reference my meme.
I believe it.
But you could be Brad Pitt level. If you're not funny, there is zero chance.
Yeah, Shania.
Yeah, right. There's zero chance.
Much.
So I think having a similar sense of humor is really, really important. I think next up for me, are they interested in growth? It doesn't have to be the exact same areas of growth that you're interested in.
Like growing those delts, growing those pecs.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're trying to grow your booty and the man is trying to grow his pecs, like that's okay. No, what I mean is, say you're on like a really spiritual path, and say the guy that you're seeing or, go on a date with is growing his business and launching his business as a startup, and he's really into that and he's passionate about it and he's excited to tell you about it. He's, penetrating the world with this mission, this drive. Like that's a really good sign. But that's also a non-negotiable for me, is having a partner who's interested in growth.
But relationship psychologists actually say having a shared generative drive, even if your drive for particular things are different, like career versus motherhood or career versus fatherhood or whatever, having a shared generative drive is actually one of the most positive indicators of long-term successful relationships.
Yeah, because it makes sense. If you are used to and accustomed to pushing yourself and growth, expansion, evolution in one area of your life, it's not really that hard to also apply those same characteristics to, say, like your relationship or growing together as parents or growing together in some type of spiritual practice or whatever. It's not that much of a leap.
Well, and think of how many relationships break down because one or both have a lack of understanding or appreciation for change.
Yeah.
But if you're a growth-oriented person, you know that change is inevitable.
Yeah.
And so when your partner changes, you also know that it's inevitable. And so you come in with an appreciation, even if it's an indirect appreciation, for change and evolution, which is less triggering when your partner is going through a particular shift. And I think so many relationships fall apart when one partner is changing and the other person is like, I want to staying here,
stagnant. Yeah. I think that's very, very important. So are they interested in growth? Next for me, are they genuinely interested in you, your experience and your thoughts? Do they ask questions about you? You go out to dinner and you find that you're the person that's asking the questions. You're starting the conversation. You're interested in their family life, their career. And it's the questions that they're offering you is just, what about you? That's not necessarily like an absolute deal breaker, but if they are showing interest, coming up with questions or, really curious about your life, your feelings, your thoughts, and showing care. Like, I don't think you can care about someone without actually being curious and interested in them. So I think that's a really good green flag, is if they are, genuinely interested in you. Last one for me. Do you have similar values regarding your non-negotiables? And does their life reflect that? So what do I mean by that? I think, again, this comes back to knowing yourself. Knowing what you want, knowing yourself, having some level of self-reflection as you move into a potential partnership, dating scenario, whatever. What are your non-negotiables around, things like health, things like family? Do you want a family? Do you want kids? Are you a nature person? Do you love rock climbing? Is that a huge part of your life? And this is a non-negotiable part of your life.
Money.
Your money. Yeah. Like, where are your values around these things? And which ones are like absolutely non-negotiable, not going to change? Like, Chase is unwilling to go into debt, which is great. Like, if we didn't share that value, there would be problems. So that's like a non-negotiable. So just come up with like, what are my things that are never going to change that I want to make really clear? And what do I need from my partner, my potential partner in this area? So if you really want 4 kids and dude guy doesn't want kids at all, obviously not a great match. So you have to come up with what your non-negotiables are. And you can't just necessarily, with some of these, you can't just take their word for it. You also want to be looking at their life. If they say like, oh yeah, I'm super active, I love working out, but they're like 100 pounds overweight, or like they don't own a gym membership, or you see no reflection in their life whatsoever that they enjoy physical activity, just, keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think that people, especially early, first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dates, will tell you, and you don't have enough data yet to see if it's like really emitting off of their lifestyle. Yeah. And so give it some time, because like, trust but verify, like, believe what they have to say, but look for the evidence too. And because a lot of times guys will tell you anything to get in your pants, honestly. And they can,
I love astrology.
They'll even fake it for a while until the acquisition is done, because men are so driven by the project of acquisition with a partner that if those things aren't core tenets and core values, once they acquire, they'll sunset them.
Yeah.
And all they were modalities for the acquisition. They weren't actual core values.
Right.
And those will fall off as the relationship becomes more serious. So keep an eye out.
What about you, babe?
I only have a few to add, because you really nailed it. And I'm sure we could go on forever about these. But one that comes up to me is independence from their parents while also having love and respect for them. Because I think relationships will be ruined if you have a codependent relationship with your parents still as an adult, which, newsflash, is very common for people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. Or they just have an unhealthy connection to their parents still. Like, say they had a troubled upbringing. And if they're, which, many of us carry around trauma from our parents. But if they've not moved into any sort of direction as it pertains to healing that, it could be a red flag. And so a green flag is this independence from their parents while also having love, respect, and adoration for the upbringing at large, whether it was positive or negative. If you're someone who had a negative experience through your parents and through your upbringing, but you can look back on it as if it was a beautiful lesson, or you have gratitude for what was the provision that took place. Green flag, dude. Same with their past relationship experiences. If they view their past relationships as I learned a lot about love. I learned a lot about, how to work through my own stuff. Even if they had ex-wife or ex-girlfriend or boyfriend, etc., exes, if they're talking about it in a positive light, green flag. Unless it's weirdly like they're still in love with their ex, obviously.
Yeah. Yes, that's not a green flag.
If you feel heard, seen, and you feel comfortable around them, not because they are agreeing with everything that you have to say, but because they actually value your opinion, all while maintaining their own identity and their own values, green flag. Mm-hmm. It's not a red flag if you have differences in the things that you're interested in. It's a green flag if they take interest in them. That doesn't mean copying everything that you're doing.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Tell
That's
me
cool.
more. Oh wow, I know nothing about that. Please educate me or whatever. Like that's a green flag. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, like maybe it's too simplistic, but they're optimistic. Mm-hmm. They're positive. We live in a world of cynicism, pessimism, and that is low vibe stuff. Piggybacking on your point about humor is super important. But humor that is sarcastic, that's cynical, that's negative. Don't get me wrong. I'm a sarcastic motherfucker.
We love Tony Hinchcliffe humor.
Right. like hilarious stuff. But
not on a partner.
I always use this analogy when it comes to humor. If you can be funny through criticism, through cynicism, through sarcasm, that's great. It'll definitely get you a laugh. But the next time you need to do it twice as hard because that type of humor is fleeting. It's kind of like alcohol. The first drink, you get a buzz, great. But, 2 months from now, you need like 3 drinks to get that same buzz. That's the same thing with like low vibe humor. If you're making fun of somebody, you got to make fun of somebody even harder next time to elicit the same type of laughter versus somebody who can be hilarious through positivity.
Yeah.
Someone who can look at challenging situations and not bypass them, but actually reframe them as an opportunity. If you find yourself looking at your life with more opportunity, with looking at the challenges, looking at hard days as if they're lessons, because you're around this person, man, that's a huge, huge green flag. Like if you're finding joy in the smaller things, if you're putting your phone down, you're putting your vices down more because you've gained this appreciation through this person to just stop and smell the roses a little bit.
Yeah.
These are huge green flags. And so those are just some of the ones that came up for me.
Yeah. And so the last part of her question is, how can I focus on these green flags as opposed to the red flags? And honestly, I think it's like, do some journaling, right? Figure out what these are our green flags. If some of them resonated for you, great. Steal them if you want. Maybe you have, some of your own that are, more relevant or resonate more with you. Write them down, make a list and focus on those when you go into a dating scenario. Like I said, the red flags are easy to spot. You don't need like a big magnifying glass for most red flags, especially at this point. You're in your 30s. You've been around the block. You've dated. You've seen some stuff. So I think make a list and just run through how maybe meditate on how you want to feel in a relationship, how you want to feel on a first date. What would that be? What would that look like? What would that, what would you be experiencing? And I think when you do that, it'll be at the forefront of your mind. And if that's happening on the date or in the experience that you're having, you'll know it.
All right. Next question and last question. Why am I always attracted to guys that end up being very soft and seemingly weak? In the first few dates, they're so nice, sweet, and timid. Wow. But as we move through the relationship, I realize that they never take charge of any situation and are looking to me to make every decision. It's tiring for me, but also kind of repulsive. This is usually when I get the ick and break up with them. Help! ! A man that bends over backwards and says yes to everything, that is not real love. In fact, it's not even what seems like an unselfish act. It is selfish. They are afraid and they are protecting themselves through the mask of a nice guy. And I encourage anybody who is a guy that resonates with this, or a girl that continues to roll into relationships with the quote unquote nice guy, to read the book by Dr. Glover, No More Mr. Nice Guy. It breaks down this archetype of a man who is a people pleaser, who is someone who is just trying to make sure their partner is happy. And their definition of happy is just not mad.
Yeah.
But in that process, they sacrifice their own masculinity. They sacrifice their purpose, their drive,
leadership,
their penetration into the world, their leadership, their safety, their steadfastness, which are all super important components for a woman to be attracted to a man. And so why does this person feel repulsive? Well, because they, after, the initial portion of wading through the waters of, oh, this is a nice guy, realize that he's not confident in himself. He's not safe. If he's going to bend over to her and her wishes, does that mean he's going to bend over to the rest of the world? If I'm going to have a child with this person, are they going to be able to be firm enough to stay steadfast in their core family values and their ability to discipline and keep a child safe? Well, shit.
Yeah.
And so it's all of those tenets of masculinity that we talk about so often: safety, security, purpose, passion, penetrating the world, the pursuit of freedom. These are all attractive to an innately feminine being. And so if those aren't present, which the nice guy mask, the nice guy archetype does not have a healthy relationship with those tenets of masculinity, it just won't work. And so
that's why she's feeling repulsive.
Before I pass to you, I'll just say, really sit with yourself and ask what it is about your expression into the world that seems to attract the nice guy. Are you potentially in a more masculine role than you could be if you are trying to attract a partner that has more masculine components? Because subconsciously or consciously, directly or indirectly, these men are looking for you. Yeah. And they're looking for somebody to be decisive because they're afraid of their own ability to make decisions. Yeah. I'll pass to you.
Yeah. Perfectly put. I 100% agree with everything that you said. In the beginning, she says, in the beginning, it's great. They're sweet. They're nice, even timid. And meeting a timid man can feel refreshing if you've dated a few fuckboys who are really, come out of the gate hot and they love bomb you right away. And then they break your heart in some way. So meeting a guy that's more timid and sweet and, softer can feel like, oh, he feels safe, but it's not the kind of safety that you actually need and want, because like you said, it's not actual safety.
Right.
Because if he can't lead himself in the relationship and sometimes the relationship at large, how can you fully trust him to lead you through something potentially dangerous or difficult? And so it's not really, it's like faux safety.
It's like the pillowcase without the pillow inside. It's like, the softness, like, oh, this is going to be safe. This is going to be good. But then you lay your head down, there's nothing in there. Where like a good man is a nice pillow. Maybe the pillowcase isn't the softest thing in the world, but underneath that pillow is nice and sturdy.
Yeah. I think that there's a balance. It's like if you've dated some fuckboys and then so you're gravitating towards the guy that feels really nice and safe and timid even. I think the opposite ends of the, spectrum are probably not going to feel great for like an embodied conscious woman. I think we want somewhere in the middle. At least I do. I want a man that I have that has the ability to tap into a softer side of him. But also I completely trust to lead us through a difficult situation. Who I know is not going to bend over backwards for me in every situation, but will listen to my opinion and respect my wants. Like there's a balance. And so, I think you ended it well by inviting her to think, to self-reflect. Again, I feel like the theme of this episode is like, the more you know yourself and the more you're willing to self-reflect in the world of dating and relationships, I think the better you're going to do, the more love you're going to experience. And in this situation, if you are continuously coming up against or having the experience with soft or seemingly weak men, that means that they're somewhat in the feminine or in the omega, as I call it, the alpha and omega. where you're looking for more of a man that's in the alpha, but like a balanced, healthy alpha, not a fuckboy, but like an embodied man that truly knows what real masculinity is. That will require you to out feminine the man. So, just a tiny example. Okay, what does all this fluffy language mean? A tiny example. You're coordinating a date, and he says, where do you want to go for dinner? I'll go anywhere you want. Oh, that sounds nice. But really what she wants is someone who's going to take the lead and say like, I got this. So you can set him up for success and say something like, oh my gosh, well, I love Mexican and Italian. I'm open to ideas, and I would love for you to just like pick for somewhere for us to go. So you're literally like setting him up for success, telling him, I love Mexican and Italian, run with it. Now you're out omegaing, out feminining him. Instead of saying, okay, I'll choose this time, and every time where we go, what we do, how and what we do everything, you're queuing him up, you're setting him up for success. That's a tiny example, but it is like an important example because you're setting the tone of the relationship. If this goes well, and if you, if you progress with this person, like he knows what he knows what he's getting, what you're getting, and you kind of set him up for success. I hope that makes sense.
And do yourself a favor and don't criticize his decision. If you're setting him up to make decisions and step into that role of being decisive, don't bust his balls once he makes a decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think a lot of women, slide into that kind of trap, which just by default creates these nice guys. Yeah. And white space out there for dudes. Like there's nobody shooting their shot except fuckboys, which is like huge white space because you can shoot your shot with respect and with adoration and with a genuine desire to connect with a woman.
Yeah. You
don't, the acquisition shot shooting of the fuckboys is like all that exists. And everybody else is a nice guy and they're timid. And I say that, obviously in a hyperbolic way, but there's a huge opportunity out there just to be a genuine guy who's like, I'm looking to connect with a really incredible person. I have a ton of respect for you, and I think you're beautiful. And
I want to get to know you more.
I want to get to know you more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's perfect. It's like, I'm looking for, to try new experiences. You seem really interesting. You're also beautiful. Would love to get to know you. Yeah. Let's, whatever. Like it really doesn't have to be complicated. And I promise you, women are starving for that.
Yeah.
What you just gave, starving for it.
Right. Set and setting, right? It's not going to happen at the club. Like,
right.
First of all, it's loud as hell. Your personality can't really showcase.
And
so it's more transactional, acquisition based. But yeah, there's other lanes.
Yeah.
We can maybe table that for another conversation.
Yeah.
But
I hope that helps.
All right, guys. That was the entree of the episode. Maybe this is the dessert, but this is the way we wrap up the Chase and Mimi show. And it's with a crazy story. Sometimes these get sent to us by others. Sometimes they're crazy stories from other individuals. But nonetheless, we've got a birth story that's gone mad.
Yeah. I thought this was relevant, and it's a little bit of a hot button for me as I'm pregnant reading this. All right. It's titled, Am I the Asshole for Leaving During My Wife's Labor? My wife went into labor around 6 p.m. on Sunday. We were expecting twins. It quickly turns into a very painful process. She kept cutting off the blood pressure to my hand when she squeezed and nearly sprayed my shirt with vomit. Around 3 a.m., my dad calls. I work for my dad's company, and we had a presentation for clients Monday morning that I had to get ready for. My dad heard my wife was in labor, but told me he needed me on this presentation. He said there was nothing I could do to help my wife, and delivery and seeing the baby come out was overrated, and people don't prepare for the gore. He said he needed me to rest up and make myself presentable for the presentation. My wife's labor was progressing very slowly, and we were all certain she would need forceps or other assistance to deliver the babies. I realized that I couldn't help her here, and my dad was counting on me, so I told her I needed to leave. She started screaming at me so loudly that a few nurses rushed over to our room. I ended up doing the presentation with the clients and things went well. I leave the office and see a text on my phone that said my wife delivered an hour ago at around 10:30 a.m. and they had to use forceps. I would have missed the meeting had I stayed, and my dad has given me everything he could possibly give me in life, so I didn't want to let him down. Am I the asshole? I had responsibilities I had to take care of, and while my wife is still screaming at me saying that she was alone when they destroyed her body, quote unquote, I'm the only one who works, and her mom herself said that she was emotionally overreacting. My wife even went as far to say that her family would disown her if she was the first of them to divorce, but that she doesn't consider me her husband right now.
Am I the asshole? Yes. Yes.
Yes.
This goes against everything we've talked about for 4+ years of podcasting.
Oh my God.
In the relationship space. Bro, this is not a scorekeeping exercise. You don't bring all of the things that you've done, that other people have done for you, and which is why you need to make your, departure out of the birth space. You don't bring that to this environment. Of all places, you don't bring this to this environment. I would say don't do that on a date with your wife, much less the most important part of your relationship journey to date.
It's just so daft to me to think that, and there's probably plenty of men out there that might think this. Well, I can't do anything for her. Fuck that. What do you mean? This is the most difficult experience that she will probably ever go through. Delivering twins.
Dude, guy.
Like the fact that there's nothing I can do for her. And, she was cutting off the pressure in my hand. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, dude.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I hurt your little finger.
Oh, she put a skull out of her vagina.
Seriously, while she's dilating to 10 centimeters. Like, I wish that I could just reach through the phone and strangle this guy a little bit. I just can't believe it's like the exact opposite of what a woman would want in a partner in that situation. Yeah. And I can't even fathom, I don't even know what situation would exist where you would willingly miss the birth of our child, where you're like, sorry, bye.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing. Moral of the story?
Fuck him.
Moral of the story for me, no devices in the birthing space.
Yes, absolutely. Oh man, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We had fun with it. If you're enjoying the medicine, if you're enjoying the Chase and Mimi show, this format, we would love to hear from you. Leave us a comment. If you have input on one of the questions that we answered and you want to share, if we missed something, please let us know. We're always looking at the comments and we appreciate every single one, even if they're negative, because it means you watched. So thank you so much. We hope you have an amazing week. We'll talk to you next time. Go spread some light. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for listening.
If you enjoyed that, check out right over here for some more fun clips.
Oh, and you're going to want to subscribe.
Bye.